Yorgos, can you tell us a little bit about how this sort of turned into a triptych? How you and Ephemius devised this as three stories.
Well, we started writing the first one, and then I think we got a little bit of time off, and we did other things. And when we got back to it, we both had a desire to also try something different with form to what we had done before. So we just came up with the idea. I mean, we just said, like, why don't we make a film like those that have more than one story? So it's something we hadn't done before. So we started exchanging ideas, and then we made a list of around 10, 12 ideas that we had, and we kind of instinctively chose two of them that felt that they belonged in the same universe with the first one that we started writing, and then we just started developing all three together.
And at what point did Yorgos sort of tell you about this idea and this sort of what he was cooking up? Because obviously I have a long and fruitful relationship at this point.
About the idea of the film or
Of the film
of the
in general.
triptych?
Yeah.
Either. Sorry. Go.
That's how we do it on set too. I guess like during quarantine or something. It was before Poor Things. I mean, I read the script of this before Poor Things. So, I guess maybe like 2020. Yeah.
What excited you about sort of entering this world of Yorgos and Ephemius, rather who you co-wrote Dogtooth and Lobster and Sacred Deer, and sort of the favorite and Poor Things.
I mean, I think that was the most exciting. I mean, I loved the script. I loved the stories. I loved the way it was being told in a triptych, even though for some time it wasn't going to be that way, and then thankfully it was, because I think it's so beautifully done that way. But I think that was the most exciting thing to me. You know, having seen obviously before The Favorite, all of those films were that, and so I had never gotten to be kind of in that world with them. And then I knew Ephemius just through Yorgos, because we had made films together, and they're pretty much best friends. And so I've met him so many times, and he's so great and such a talented writer too, obviously. And so the two of them writing something and getting the chance to finally do that as our fourth collaboration was just extremely exciting. Yeah.
Yorgos, can you tell us a little bit about sort of how this figure of RMF sort of entered the world of this film?
Well, RMF has quite of a long story, actually. We at some point, like many years ago, we wrote a short film. I think the initials at that point were WGF or something. And that short never happened. And when we started writing the first story, Of Kinds of Kindness, we kind of incorporated that character, which was this man with his shirt and his initials that everybody misread. We just incorporated him in the first story. And then when we decided that there was going to be more than one story, the three stories, we just were looking for a link between the three, but we didn't want it to be the main character, so we just thought that RMF would be a nice kind of singular presence that appears in all three stories without appearing for a very long time, but being kind of pivotal for every story.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about sort of these three distinct characters, and what it was like. I know you filmed in order, so what it was like sort of slipping in and out of them, as the filming progressed.
It was great. I mean, it just kind of, I guess, felt like three short films back to back. But it was great. I mean, it felt like three very distinct worlds. Like each 3 weeks that we would spend felt very different from the last 3 weeks. so you just sort of slip into that place. And I think also I have the benefit of having worked with him multiple times, and so it just feels very comfortable, and like you can try things and, you know, explore, and it feels very free. So it wasn't, you know, it didn't feel like this. I think maybe if I didn't know a filmmaker and was doing something like that, like for instance Jesse, it was his first time working, you know, with Yorgos, and so I think at first he might have had more kind of nerves around it, but I think after the first story he also felt very like, okay, I know what this feels like now. What's going on? Is that a strobe light?
I think you're supposed to dance.
Okay, I'm ready. But yeah, no, it was great, and you know, and there was also the added sort of benefit and very, very wise decision, as usual on his part, this guy's part, to not have them be so distinctive and like, you know, majorly different accents, whatever. Like he wanted it to feel, you know, distinct but not like showy.
Yeah.
And the differences between the three characters for each actor, because it would have stood out probably as like, oh look, they're doing their big accent now or whatever in this story. So that was also really nice because you could sort of slip into the next place and just go to different, you know, zones.
Well, you mentioned dancing, and so can we talk a little bit about the dance and how you sort of settled on the soundtrack for it, like, and how, you know, how Yorgos, how you wanted it to sort of, why you wanted to have this moment, and Emma, what it was like, sort of choreographing it.
I'll begin.
Okay.
Well, at some point after we'd written the script and we're in pre-production, I kind of felt the need to end each story with either a song, someone singing, someone dancing. So I remembered Emily during Poor Things. I'd seen this video that she did. Like she usually dances, fools around in her downtime when we have a break. So at one point, someone filmed her, and they sent me the video, and she was, you know, on Poor Things set in her costume, but slippers, and she was doing this crazy dance that had nothing to do with the whole setting, and so I, you know, and it was, you know, very funny and wild, and I said, like, we should do that, you know, we should do something with this one day. And then when I was thinking, you know, what she could do, I thought of that dance, and I was like, you should do that dance in the third story. And I was like, but it has to be exactly the same. So, you know, she tried.
I mean, well, it was like, it didn't feel, it felt like it had to be that spirit, but it didn't have to be exactly the same.
It's pretty similar, though.
It's pretty similar. I did try to kind of copy some of the moves. He sent me the video. He resent me the video. A year later, I was like, learn it exactly as. And then picking the song was really fun. I mean, he made a compilation of how many songs do you have, like 20 or something, and then we would listen to them, and I would try to do the kind of like improvised dance to each one. It took us a little while, and then we settled on Brand New Bitch because it's so great, and it's still right now one of my favorite songs, and I listen to it all the time. So, yeah, it never gets old, that song.
Yorgos, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about sort of how you saw music functioning, you know, wanting to end on these musical notes, also starting with Sweet Dreams. You know, why was that something that you were drawn to with this film?
I don't know. There was, well, first of all, there's the soundtrack that Jerskin Fendricks did, which is the same composer that we worked together on Poor Things. And Poor Things was his first soundtrack ever, the first time he's written music for film. And on this one, we decided to do something very different. So we worked with Jerskin with, you know, limitations in a way. We just decided that, okay, for this one, we're gonna do something different. Why don't we do just, you know, piano and choir? For some reason, instinctively, we kind of, you know, landed on that. And he had just read the script, but he hadn't seen anything. So what we do is like, he writes the music before he sees any of the film, and before we shoot anything, so I actually have the music when I'm filming, and then I use the music that he's created during the editing process, and that's how the music is put together. And then after I had that, I just, well, apart from the fact that I wanted these, the stories to end with a song or something, late in the process, I thought of starting the film with a song, which would actually be, the song that identifies RMF in his car, and then when he crashes. And I just started listening to music, and I wanted something older, just because it was him, and I thought of his age as well, and I started listening to music that I listened to, and these amazing iconic songs, and Sweet Dreams kind of hit all the balance that I was looking for, because apart from it being an amazing song, like the lyrics also weren't too pointed, but also kind of made sense with the entirety of the film. So yeah, it's just a trial and error. Like, we used it just felt right, and yeah, we went with it.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you all for being here. If you wouldn't mind staying in your seats while everyone walks out. But thank you guys so much.